Welcome to Contemporary Retirement. Contemporary Retirement is a public interest program focused on the retirement community. Every program has segments on legal, financial, and health issues affecting the retirement community. Contemporary Retirement is sponsored in part by a major grant from the Family Heritage Trust Company.
Contemporary Retirement is sponsored by Family Heritage Trust Company. The Family Heritage Trust Company is an independent bank chartered trust company established by local professionals to provide fiduciary services including fee-based investment advice, trust services, retirement planning, and tax planning. The Family Heritage Trust Company is committed to client service in our communities. For more information, call the Family Heritage Trust Company at 301-631-5900.
Contemporary Retirement is sponsored in part by a grant from R. Thomas Murphy & Associates, P.C. R. Thomas Murphy & Associates is one of Franklin County's leading law firms, emphasizing estate, trust, elder law, and medical assistance planning.
Welcome to the Is It Legal feature on Contemporary Retirement. Is It Legal focuses on the legal issues affecting the retirement community. With me today is Tom Murphy from the R. Thomas Murphy Law Firm with offices in Waynesboro, Chambersburg, and McConnellsburg. Welcome to the show, Tom.
Good morning, Mike.
Tom, you know, one of the great challenges that we confront in our practice every day is no matter who the public is talking to, whether it be discharge planners, government agencies, nursing home types, friends, neighbors, relatives, they're all being told it's all over now. You should have done something 5 years ago or some other time. Right. And you and I, as we talk to our clients, we always try to focus them on a single word. What is that word?
Well, the word is options. You always have options, even after a nursing home admission or any other event.
And we're going to talk a little bit about this over the next several weeks. And when we talk about options, you know, these people, well, they are in the nursing home. There's nothing you can do. The fact is that the vast majority of the aggressive strategies we engage in, we do not engage in until after the person is in the nursing home. And yet that message that they're hearing, no matter who they're listening to, is there's nothing they can do.
Well, I hear that every day, and I know you do, where that's the first thing out of someone's mouth. Well, it's too late. We should have done this. We should have. And I tell them, no. Here's why it's great to be starting now and not previous to this.
Because we talk to people every day. The government is not going to pay for in-home services. The government's not going to pay for cottages, apartments, or assisted living. You have to have money. And we would have discouraged people from giving away money before they were in a nursing home because it would have limited their options in order to be able to effectively take care of themselves.
Well, exactly. Why give away the single most important resource in lining up care? And so with money, with assets, you have options. And in most cases, you really don't know what those options are going to be depending on how your health develops.
And you get into these strategies that people feel like they have to jump the gun, you know, so you have a husband and wife. And I look and say, tell me which one of you guys going to a nursing home first, you know, so how are you going to make a decision on how to address this when you don't even know what it is the problem is going to be?
Worse yet is when they do engage in some of these strategies, they usually increase the risk and potential problems for families that don't need to be done. You don't need to engage in those strategies.
Well, we're specifically talking married couples. The biggest asset for most married couples is their personal residence. Automatically protected. People don't realize that you don't have to do anything to protect a married couple's residence. And almost every proactive step that you would take would make the circumstance worse.
Well, absolutely. You start giving away real estate, which would normally be exempt and protected. Now you're incurring penalties and problems, and it's just a mess.
And the fact of the matter is that, you know, we hammer this all the time on this program, and it just seemingly we cannot drive home this message. For a married couple, the key is not to give away your house, but to have a power of attorney in place that allows us to engage in the strategies to most effectively be able to exercise those options when the event occurs.
Well, exactly. If you have the tools in place and you've had a chance to discuss the different options you have with that particular family, it makes the planning very simple.
And oftentimes people think you have to do extraordinary things, and the fact of the matter is the law is designed to protect married couples, and all you really have to have in place is that power of attorney that gives you the ability to exercise those
options.
You know, we oftentimes talk to people, and I know we do seminars, and we just say, you know, if I can have them leave that seminar understanding that they always have options, I don't care where they are in the process, we will have achieved the goal, because we cannot overcome the misconceptions, but perhaps we can get them to understand they always have options.
That's probably the most important message folks can take out of it. Know your options, get
And
good
then,
advice.
and then once you understand you have options, I got to figure out where I get the information on the options. And where you get the information on the options is obviously dealing with qualified elder law attorneys that are well versed in this area.
That's really the message.
Tom, as always, thanks for taking time to appear on our program.
You're welcome.
More from Contemporary Retirement after these messages.
Few things in life are as important as family. Leave your insurance worries to us. Write Gardner. Call or visit our website to learn how we can make insurance simple and more affordable.
Every life that meets its end leaves a heart for love to mend. Sister, brother, family, friends are left to carry on. When the loss seems more than you can bear, it's nice to know that we'll be there at Douglas A. Fiery Funeral Home. We care.
Call Ed Lowe to help put your mind at ease.
Welcome to the special guest feature on Contemporary Retirement. This segment focuses on various issues which are of importance to the retirement community. My guest today is Jason Malott, Register of Wills, Washington County. Welcome to the show, Jason.
Thank you for having me.
You know, Jason, when we talk about the probate process, I don't think there's any part of the judicial system that is more misunderstood than probate. First of all, there's this perception that it is an onerous, difficult, expensive process.
Yeah, that's definitely a legend or a myth, a urban myth, because the probate process in Maryland is very streamlined, and our office is very customer friendly, and you don't have all of the excessive government burdens that people think that you do when you come into our office. We walk you through.
Well, you know, when you look at the state of Maryland in particular, you know, what's inheritance tax between husband and wife?
0.
And what's the inheritance tax between parents and children?
0.
And about, I think it's $2 million Maryland estate tax exemption, so 98% of the estates don't have a taxable estate.
That's correct.
So how much incentive does the government have to make this a difficult process when essentially they're making no money on it?
Right, not much at all. I mean, we want to get people through as painlessly as we can.
And so I started practicing back in 1976, 40 years ago, and the probate process then was not bad, but there's been a continuous process of simplifying it, reducing the cost, and making it efficient.
Yes, just since I've been in the Register of Wills office in the last 17 years, they've eliminated inheritance tax for a majority of citizens. The paperwork has been streamlined. There's much less that you have to do now than you did just a decade ago.
And yet we see people create problems for themselves. And the number one problem creator, I'll let you say it because it's a little self-serving for me as a lawyer to say it,
writing your own will. And a lot of folks think that that is our job when they call you the Register of Wills. You write wills? No, we don't. That was, I would say, probably more than 50 years ago. It might have been something we had a form for, but the Attorney General long ago admonished us not to do that.
Practicing law without a license.
Very, very dangerous.
Right.
And I tell folks, you know, you get what you pay for, and if you don't pay anything for it, or you go to one of these legal websites, or you go to Staples and get a kit, you're going to get exactly what you paid for, and usually it is not what you wanted. So get a good estate attorney and have them draw up a valid will that is going to meet all the recommendations and the laws. It really makes a mess if you use one of these forms or you decide to scratch your own will out. And most people, they think a notary is the requirement. A notary means everything. Maryland does not require a notary on a will. You have to have 2 witnesses. They'll come in with a notary and that's it. That's not a valid will. It's very disappointing, but that's the way the law is.
And it's a great challenge here because I oftentimes look at people and say, all right, now here's a simple will, or here's a form that you've took. Now I want you to look at this and tell me what every one of these terms mean.
Yeah.
And they somehow think that these terms are meaningless terms, but in fact, you know, they've been generated over 500 years of the English common law system. Every single word means something.
That's for sure, and that's what I again try to stress to folks. Even when they do have a will drawn up by an attorney, I always enforce them to please read through it, make sure you understand what you're signing, that is the way you want things to go. So, you know, when you just fill out a form or you draw up your own and maybe you use a will that you were looking at for a different situation, someone else's situation, it's not going to do what you wanted it to do. And, you know, folks think that every estate's the same. That's far from the truth. Every one is different. And you can't always fit a square peg into a round hole. So definitely get an attorney.
Well, you know, oftentimes people are very fearful of this probate process, and I think you told me you administer about 1,200 estates a year.
That's correct.
And almost every single one of them is done on a procedural basis that doesn't even involve the court. Very simple, straightforward.
That's for sure. We do have a term called judicial probate, and that's generally when an item is contested or that we don't know who to appoint as a personal representative as an administrative probate, which is what I do. So we do have to call on the court to make those decisions, but the percentage out of a year out of our estates is very minimal. So we go to the orphans court actually less and less each year.
And there's this perception that families fight, but the reality is the vast majority of estates that we handle, there's very little fighting going on. So occasionally a misunderstanding or something, but you explain it, and most of these people, if they have a history of getting along, they will continue to get along.
That's for sure. And generally, you know, you call in, ask us a question as to what something means, and that usually settles it most of the time. You're always going to have those estates that, you know, they've been antagonistic for years, long before the person died, and they're going to cause problems. But that's a very slim number.
I oftentimes tell people, if you've been getting along, you will continue to get along. If you haven't gotten along, it isn't going to start now.
That's right. And many times we'll see the ones that are antagonistic is something that happened 40 years ago, you know, that mom did this or liked you better or whatever. So has really nothing to do with the will or the distribution.
And bringing them into the orphans court is a very inexpensive, quick way to resolve these issues, and most people are satisfied once they get their answer, even if it isn't the same answer that they wanted.
Yes, and most times whatever you petition for, you're going to have a hearing probably no more than 6 weeks. So
and you don't need a lawyer, you can come in and state your case.
That's right. It is truly the people's court.
Jason, as always, thanks for taking time to appear on our program.
Thank you, Mike.
More from Contemporary Retirement after these messages.
Tranquility at Fredericktown Assisted Living and Memory Care provides a warm, home-like atmosphere that promotes daily life enrichment. At Tranquility, our medical director is a geriatric physician. Our professionals support and understand the various stages associated with Alzheimer's and dementia. We have on-site physical, occupational, and speech therapists, as well as around-the-clock licensed nurses. For more information, give Tranquility at Fredericktown a call today, because everyone deserves great care. Let us do the caregiving so you and your loved one can embrace life again.
All right, let's get this show on the road. Ma'am, give me a good push.
Hang on, just 1 minute.
Ma'am, I need you to push right now.
Honey, you really need to push.
It's time.
Just hold on a minute.
No, right now. One push, ma'am. One push.
Just one more bid on HurleyAuctions.com.
If you haven't visited HurleyAuctions.com, you don't know what you're missing. Whether you're buying or selling, antique cars, tractors, boats, or real estate, you can do it all at HurleyAuctions.com.
Get to know Dr. Carrie Hesley at Diagnostic Imaging Services.
What I find most rewarding is caring for women through our Women's Imaging Center. We have a caring staff that will ease patients through an ultrasound, bone densitometry, breast biopsy, or mammogram. Our health team is sensitive to emotions involved in women's imaging and understands that every woman is at risk for breast cancer. Providing the community with a center that is so dedicated to breast health and the imaging needs of women is something special.
DIS Women's Imaging Center, providing women with progressive care.
Welcome to Contemporary Health Scene. Contemporary Health Scene focuses on the health issues affecting the retirement community. With me today is Carroll Kaiser, Center Director, Easter Seals of Washington County. Welcome to the show, Carroll.
Thank you very much for having me.
You know, Carroll, I love to talk about adult daycare, and I think one of the most astounding things that I find in my practice is that when people are beginning to be confronted with some of the issues that result in people going to your facility, it's as if they've never heard of it. You know, you've been here a long time. I talk about it all the time. We have you on the show regularly, and yet people just seemingly do not hear about adult daycare.
That's right, and I think some of it has to do with denial, because I think that educating what happens to all of us as we grow older is not on the front burner, it's always on the back burner, and it really, until a family is faced with it, and even then they sometimes have difficulty understanding what's really happening.
So I had a family in my office the other day. They said, Dad does not need to be in a nursing home. And you listen to the conversation, it's clear he does not need to be in a nursing home. It is clear that he does need assisted living, but his wife is willing to provide that assisted living, but it's consuming her 7 by 24, 168 hours a week. Right. And so when I mentioned adult daycare, it's just like a light went on. Oh, really? Is that available? So let's take that family example, and if you were sitting talking to that woman, what might you start the conversation with?
Well, I think the most important thing I would let her know is that we are a medical adult day program, which I think also is not clearly understood what that means. So that means we do have a nurse on staff who's constantly assessing, is in communication with all the medical personnel that are associated, that would be associated with her husband. And also that we're available for her. A lot of times I have family members that just call and say, I don't know what to do, or is this normal, whatever normal means.
Well, how about medications?
Well, and we can give medications. We are required by the state to have orders, physician orders, updated every 6 months. So our nurse does give out medications.
All right, now when I was talking to this family, they were kind of, well, I think that's really a good idea. And I looked at them and I knew exactly what they were thinking. They were thinking, yeah, but how are we going to get him there?
Right. Well, and we do offer transportation.
In fact, we'll have Director Greg pull up some pictures here as we're talking here. All right, so when we say transportation, we mean serious transportation.
That's right, that's right.
And in the back there's a lift.
Right, handicapped equipped. And we have 4 vans that go out every morning and every afternoon to pick up our clients and to take them home. Well,
and if she were to say, yeah, but I have a little trouble getting him in and out of the vehicle, is there going to be help?
Oh, most definitely. If they can still manage steps, we'll help them up the steps of the van. And if they need the lift, we can provide that service.
All right, so right out of the gate, she was just, wow, I mean, they actually come get them. And actually, we always talk about the transportation being part of the therapy.
That's right, because so many people don't get out and about and don't have any other transportation in their lives except Easter seals. So they get on the van in the morning, and if they're one of the first to be picked up, then they get a little travel.
And then we have some fun. I know, so we see here we have meals, activities, and are they set activities or do they get some choices?
Well, they do have choices. We do have a calendar, and so there is a vague idea of what might happen during the day, but you never know what's going to happen.
So the fact is if a guy wants to talk about football, there'll be people there to talk about football. They want to talk politics, there'll be people there.
And if there isn't someone available at that time, we'll make sure that the next time they come, there will be somebody available.
Obviously, there's a cost associated with it, but we tell people every day, do not let cost dissuade you from talking, because you're committed and you've researched all of the available funding sources, and there are a number of available assistance out there.
Most definitely, and we try to be creative when we need to be, and so typically there is help.
So whether it might be the VA, it might be the Commission on Aging,
right.
There's just a number of different sources out there.
That's right. And if they're on medical assistance, there is a waiver program, and we can get them hooked up with that.
All right, and so how do they get involved with you? How do they find out what's going on?
Well, they give us a call, and we will give them a basic idea of what goes on and what we offer over the phone, but then we encourage them to come for a tour. And if the tour goes well, and typically it does, we do offer a free trial day. And what that means is we go out and we pick their loved one up, bring them back to the center. They have a whole day with us at the center to see how they like it, and also to make sure that we can provide what they need. Then we take them home.
And how many days per week can this be?
It can be as many as 6 days. We are open Monday through Saturday, and it can be as few as 1 day a week.
And what are the hours that you basically from pickup to drop off?
Our vans leave at 8:30, and typically everybody's in the center by 10 o'clock, and then the vans go back out at 2 o'clock. But we are open after 2 o'clock, so if someone has a doctor's appointment and they're running a little late, they can always leave their loved one at the center and come back and pick them up when they're done.
Carol, as always, thanks for taking time to appear on our program.
Thank you for having me.
More from Contemporary Retirement after these messages.
My scholarship from Community Foundation is something that's super important to me. I was the first person in my family to go to college. There are ways for you to get that education.
The Community Foundation provides hundreds of scholarships each year in all areas of study.
Having that scholarship money was so helpful.
The scholarship application process opens March 30th. Visit scholarshipsfrederickcounty.com for more information.
I couldn't be more grateful.
Albright Crumbacher Mal and Eitel are a full-service firm that provides elder care services including managing incoming bills, bill payment, depositing checks, balancing bank statements, and preparing, planning, and filing personal tax returns. Put your mind at ease and call us today.
Welcome to the Making Sense feature on Contemporary Retirement. This segment focuses on various issues which are of importance to the retirement community. With me today is Doug Fiery from Douglas Fiery Funeral Homes. Welcome to the show, Doug.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, Doug, when we talk about funerals, there's a perception that one size fits all. You can just go on the internet and get all this stuff, and the reality is every family situation is different.
So different, and it's one of those things where there's nothing wrong with going on the internet and trying to get some information, better educate yourself about the process and everything. But if you really want to get better details, I'd rather have that one-on-one conversation with you, and that's why we kind of invite people to come in and just talk with us. They don't have to come in and commit to anything, but they can just come in and find out what it's all about. Maybe take some information home with them that they can sit and look through, and then maybe move forward from there in the future.
When we talk to people about pre-planning, and we're big proponents of pre-planning, and yet there's this perception, I don't want to pre-plan because I'll have to prepay.
Right. And how many times have we talked about that? So many times that people, and I hear it all the time, people come in the office and say, I'm just not ready to do anything just yet. And I say, I understand that. We want to move at your pace, but prepaying is not something that has to be done now. We can give you an idea maybe where you stand based on what you select, but you do not have to prepay to pre-plan.
All right, and so as we talk down the process, first of all, right out of the gate, one of the big problems we have with people is, mom said something 30 years ago, she said something else 20 years ago, she said something else 10 years ago to 3 different children, and now they all have a different perception about what mom wanted, but mom's actually changed her mind in the last 10 years.
Right, and that's, again, just goes back to the issue of let's sit down and do it. They say, this is what I want to do, but they've never made any real firm commitment to saying, where they came in, they sat down, put it down on paper, started a file, talked to us, got things organized where it's very clear, these are the directions I want to go. And I think that's where the benefit of pre-planning helps. You kind of push away those other things that were done or said in years past, and people do change their minds.
Well, of course, we know there were some faith-based reasons that you didn't want to do cremation 30, 40 years ago that typically people do not view limited by today. And so you could have a fairly significant potential tussle in the family over a change that's occurred because that wasn't fully communicated.
Right, and it goes back to another question, is due to the fact that people might have said, "Oh, I don't want to do cremation," and then they say, "Oh, I'm not going to prepay or prearrange." But you're not bound by anything. We can change anything at any time. So if you made arrangements even 10, 15, 20 years ago, and you decide, "I don't want to do that anymore," we can change that and adjust to what your needs are today.
All right, and then of course it's a heck of a lot easier, when you have a lot of these personal issues here. For instance, what type of service am I going to have?
Right, and there are personal issues of things that different things come up with different people. But I think most of the time when people sit down and we can show them options and we can show them different ways of doing things, and they say, "Well, I didn't know you could do that." We have a fair number of people, for example, who end up doing the burial first, and then come back and have a memorial service followed by maybe a luncheon or a gathering, and that's something that years and years ago you didn't see. So there's lots of different options, lots of different ways, and it's nice to be able to share those with people.
And then, of course, you have the other issue in terms of the VA funerals. And the fact is that they're not going to get buried right away.
Right, right. Especially being our proximity to Arlington, and if you wanted to be buried in Arlington and you're eligible to be buried at Arlington, you could be weeks, if not months, out until you get a burial to take place. So a lot of people don't understand that and don't understand the process involved with that. So again, pre-planning makes you aware of all those sort of situations, so you can let your family know that this is forthcoming.
And then oftentimes there's this perception, well, I'm donating my body to science, means there's absolutely nothing that needs to be done, but nothing could be further from the truth.
Oh, very much so. I mean, the process of still gathering all that information still has to be done, and I think a lot of times they don't realize that, who's going to apply for, certified copies of your death certificate, who's going to take care of Social Security, who's going to help you put the obituary into paper and get all those sort of things organized. And if you decide that you want a service or something like that, those are things that we can still help you with, even though that whole process of donating your body to science is already done.
And there's always this perception, too, that just because you're doing a cremation, there's not going to be any services.
Right, right. And that's, a lot of people think just cremation is all they do, but they're very diverse anymore. And sometimes I feel bad because there's so many different options with cremation. I feel like I'm kind of overwhelming some of the families, but I wanted them to understand that there's a lot of choices. And again, I'm going to go back to what we say, when you're pre-arranging, it's a lot better to try to decipher through all these things when you don't feel pressured or the emotional stress that comes with it.
And we oftentimes caution people, you better get enough death certificates in this first period of time afterwards, because the stays become very difficult on getting copies 2 or 3 years later.
It can. It's just more of a hassle. We like to, and that's taking the time, again, to understand really where people are coming from, and we have that time where they can think much more clearly about what they have and what they need them for, so it's a better process.
Doug, as always, thanks for taking time to appear on our
Thanks,
program.
Mike.
Thank you from Contemporary Retirement.
Remember a more carefree time? Leave your insurance worries to us. Write Gardner. Call or visit our website to learn how we can make insurance simple and more affordable.
These days, it seems like everything's online, and filling out claim forms and receiving and paying bills online isn't always easiest. That's why we at Quality First Insurance encourage you to just give us a call. Let us help.
Hi there, I'm Paul Sweeney with Quality First Insurance, and it's still just as simple. Our offices are open every weekday where you'll be able to call and speak to real, live people.
No detail was missed. I'm so glad that I turned to Quality First Insurance.
I've recommended Quality First Insurance to my friends who've been just as satisfied.
If you're not happy with what you're paying for Medigap, or more importantly, not happy with your service, give us a try. We're locally owned, and we take the time to provide you with the best. We are Quality First Insurance, and our mission is to provide quality products to quality people. Pick up the phone and give us a call today at 800-745-1411.